Hello everyone. Welcome to Air with Trees podcast. I am Fatima, the host of this show. Trees are one of my favorite beings in nature and I enjoy learning about them. There are not many podcasts that talk about trees, so I started this show to spread awareness about some common Indian trees. Every week, I share my stories related to the tree of the week, describe it to you in detail, and then help you with keys to identify it in the wild. So come along with me, let's explore the beautiful world of trees. Some trees prefer a community like us. They can survive when alone, but they need family and friends to thrive. This week's tree is such an Indian tree called sal. The word forest is inseparable from sal. You may find a lonesome tree in some places, but it is not as impressive as a forest full of these trees where they grow to mighty heights. I have spent a good portion of my life amidst such a sal forest. I had not been a forest dweller per se, but let me tell you my story, and then you will understand what I mean. Sal is the state tree of Jharkhand, and rightly so. The vast expanse of these trees cover the land. Jharkhand literally translates to the land of forests, and Sal dominates the landscape. Back in 1995, my dad's company CCL posted him to a colliery project in the middle of a Sal forest. We were a bit apprehensive about moving to such a place as such dense forests harbored danger, not always in the form of wildlife. And yet, years we lived there were thankfully good and memorable. Our residential campus was surrounded by the forest. There was just a feeble brick boundary by way of division. Living in such a place, it was difficult not to notice the trees. The lush forest instilled a deep respect and admiration in me for trees. While the actual forest was out of bounds for many obvious reasons, it was still possible to get a good view of it whenever we traveled by road from our town to Ranchi city. The road was paved by cutting hillsides and it snaked through the forested land. That stretch of 70 kilometers was a pure bliss, albeit a bit scary when traveling at night. It was not the safest route to travel, as stories of robbery and wildlife encounters abounded. But it was the perfect route to enjoy the dense verdant forest. The road circuited through winding hills, charming valleys, and bucolic villages. Sal trees were growing abundantly in all these places. It was easy to spot other trees such as mahua, jamun, palash, palm, and semel, among many others. Bamboo thickets and lantana bushes took over the vacant lots. It was nice to see the familiar trees and bushes every time we traveled. Today, I don't have any specific memory of Sal to talk about. Instead, the forest of Sal gives a backdrop to all of my memories of my childhood town and the road trips. It has been 15 years since I have been there, but I remember those forests as if I passed by them just yesterday. Shorea robusta or Sal, belonging to the Dipterocarp family, has many names in Indian languages. One of them is Sakhwa, as we call it in Jharkhand and the neighboring states. The name Sal comes from Sanskrit, which means house, enclosure, or rampart. An old growth sal forest is impressive to look at, full of these mighty trees that grow very tall and make closed canopy higher up. Understory is peppered with some other common native trees. An old growth forest is composed of whole native trees that grow without any human intervention. Such a forest sustains complex ecosystems and has rich biodiversity. But these old growth sal forests are disappearing. Felling of trees for commercial land use, agriculture, timber, and so on, either legally or illegally, constantly threaten these forests, not to mention the climate change. This is not good news for local flora and fauna, and also the environment, as older trees sequester more carbon. This issue of disappearing forests is not a top priority for authorities. Even though sustainable silviculture practices of SAL are being promoted that ensure that these trees don't disappear completely, the richness of forests are lost. These cultivated groves are grown in tabular form of bowering rows and columns with no wild understory and are not as beneficial as the old growth. One can argue that it is better to have trees than none at all. Well, it's time to move on. Otherwise, I will go and on about this topic. Now, let's learn more about this tree. Let's begin with the leaves. The leaf scheme of sal is simple. The bright to dark green leaves are broad and oval with a heart shaped base and a slightly pointy tip. The leaves are much sought after not exactly as a food, but are used to serve food. The leaves are woven with small wood sticks and turned into bowls and plates. These single use, biodegradable, environment friendly bowls called dona in my hometown are widely used in regions of Sal, both by indigenous people and in urban settings. They are produced by small cottage industries and are evergreen in their demand for their use in homes, street stalls, parties, and festivities. Hot food served in sakwadona has an earthy, leafy aroma that mingles with food and makes it more delicious. The fresh leaves are used as fodder for farm animals, while the used and discarded plates and bowls are readily chomped down by stray cattle in villages and cities. Sal is evergreen, where it receives adequate rain, but in dry regions, it drops leaves from January to March. The flowers begin to bloom before the new leaves start emerging. The new leaves are red in color and as they mature, turn bright emerald green to darker shade. The flowers of sal are white with a yellowish tint. The five petals of the flower make it look like a mini five pointed star. They hang in large clusters all over the tree. During the beginning of the flowering month, the tree is a sight to behold, and a subtle fragrance pervades the forest air. The flowers are mostly pollinated by wind. Wind pollination works for the species because Shorea robusta is found almost always in large groups. Afterward, the fruits start forming. The fruits are long and oval and have five long reddish brown wings, which is a characteristic feature of dipterocarps. Once the fruits dry up, they become brown and drop to the ground. The new saplings grow close to the parent, and that's how a forest expands. The fruits bear one seed. The seeds are pressed for sal oil, which is edible and is used in cooking and also as fuel in paints and in varnishes. Now, bark of sal is light reddish brown. It's smooth in young trees, but as the tree grows older, the bark has distinct vertical furrows. The resin trapped from the bark of the tree is called damar gum. Aromatic gum is used to make incense sticks and in cosmetics and also as varnishes and cork for shapes. The wood of sal is strong, durable, fire resistant, and termite resistant. As such, it's commercially and economically important tree. Apart from natural forests, which are slowly cleared to meet the demand for its timber, sal forests are cultivated and managed too. The woods are used to make railway sleepers, furniture, doors and windows, and so on. The natural habitat of sal ranges from the south of the Himalayas to the eastern Ghats and covers a good portion of north, central, and east India. It is also found naturally in Nepal and Bangladesh. Many birds and insects call this tree their home. It also has a symbiotic relationship with red weaver ants, who build their nests in the tree. Ants help the tree by feeding on pest insects that harm the tree. There is also a rare mushroom that grows underground at the base of the sal tree. In Jharkhand, the false earth star mushroom, called rugra locally, grows under the ground below the thick leaf litter of sal during the rainy months. The locals collect the mushrooms by digging a few inches of topsoil early in the morning. They are then sold in local markets at a high price as it is only available for a short duration of monsoon and are highly perishable. However, it is considered a delicacy and has medicinal properties. Hence, it has a high demand among the locals. Now, let's see how you can find and identify this tree. If you are in the native habitat of this tree, it's not difficult to find this tree or a cluster of it on roadsides and in forests. This tree is grown in many other places too. So let's see how its features can help us identify it. Let's start with the leaves. The leaves are simple and broad with a heart shaped base and a pointy tip. The flowers have five petals, are yellowish white, and grow in clusters. The fruits are oval and have five reddish wings and turn brown and smooth upon maturing. During leafless periods, look for the shape of the tree. A straight growing upright tree that is very tall, up to 45 to 50 meters. The bark is smooth in younger trees, and in older ones, the vertical furrows are good identifiers. And that's your sal tree. And that's all for today's episode. For all my episodes, I refer to several resources and add my own observations. You can find the complete list of resources in my blog. You can find the link to my blog in the About tab. Subscribe to A Year with Trees podcast in the app of your choice and share this podcast for the sake of tree love. Thank you all. Stay tuned.